Notice the positive command. But in everything, he's going to give us 4 specific words for prayer. After the everything, put an arrow and put positive command. In everything, by prayer, petition, with thanksgiving, the request of you be made known unto God. There are 4 words in the New Testament for prayer. All 4 of them are right here. Here's what I want you to know. When anxiety knocks on the door of your heart, let prayer answer it, but not just any kind of prayer. He's going to give you a very clear, using all 4 words, there's a specific way to pray that when you're anxious, when you're fearful, when the stomach acid starts, when you are awake and can't fall back to sleep, when you have these scenarios where you're projecting into the future how terrible and what's going to happen, and at your job, and your kids aren't going to turn out right, and this is going to happen, and your marriage will never get better, and this thing at work is never going to change, and the health issue is always going to go from bad to worse. Once you start down that track, there's a kind and there's a way to pray that the Spirit of God will go, hush. In fact, notice what the promise is. The promise is that when you pray, petition with thanksgiving, and you make your requests known to God, the peace of God that's beyond human understanding will guard your heart, and your thoughts, or literally your minds. Circle the word guard. If you've ever seen a documentary or ever had the privilege of going to London and, the guys with the tall hat in front of Buckingham Palace, right? They're sentries. They're a sentry. In other words, they're on guard. Or if you've ever seen the little commercial, I like this commercial. It's the one where the guy's in the bank and the robbers come in and everyone's on the floor and the lady looks up and says, do something. He goes, I'm not a security guard, I'm a security monitor. I'm just monitoring. There's a problem here. That's this word. He says, when you pray like this, the Spirit of God that gives you a sense of peace and calm will literally guard the deepest parts of your life and your thinking. And in fact, what we're going to learn is there's times when you lose your peace, when you realize there's something wrong, that actually it's like the red light on the dashboard of the car. And what it tells you is that there's something wrong under the hood. When you lose your peace, there's something about your abiding in Christ. Your focus, your mind, your trust is off of Christ and onto something else. And your loss of peace is like, and it says he'll act as like an arbitrator, a monitor, so that you can get back in line. With that, let's get to the application. Negatively, there's a command. We've looked at them negatively and positively. You'll notice there's 4 key words, that it's the how, and there's the promise, which is the why. In your notes where it says negatively, I would like you to write, stop worrying about anything. Part of how our minds work, we see it, we say it, we write it, it sticks. I just saw a study by Harvard University recently that talked about those graduates that actually wrote down their goals were 80% more likely to succeed. I want you to write down, stop worrying. Don't just sit here and listen. You're not passive. This is about your life today, in this moment. Second, where it says positive command, I want you to write, pray about everything. Because here's the thing. Some of us have practiced being anxious most of our lives. We learned it from our parents. Almost everyone does it. We think that what you do, when you worry is you take a pill for this, a pill for that. When you feel uptight, we'll turn on the TV, binge on Netflix. For others, when you lose your peace, you go shopping. For others, it's been really tough and you're uptight about things and you wonder, and so, one glass of wine made you feel a little bit better and about 3 makes you feel a lot better. Some of you had a prescription for some back pain, and when you get uptight now, you actually take some of those pills even though your back pain was months ago gone and better. For others, some of us, it's maybe a little bit more healthy. You just work. The moment you feel anxious, you just start working because you feel like you're in control. At the heart of anxiety is life is out of control and I can't handle this, so you do something that gives you pseudo peace. For many of us, it's just a trip to the refrigerator when we're not really in need of calories. But there's something about a bag of chips, a bag of popcorn, some chocolate, that just makes you feel better for what? Right? 15 to 30 minutes. There's all kind of ways that we address our anxiety. Most of them aren't very helpful. And then when we do a lot of those things, some of you log on and surf, some of you spend mindless hours, not because you want to or need to, clicking on Facebook and posting on Instagram, because it's just a distraction. Is there something wrong inherently with doing some of those things? Absolutely not. But when I'm doing that, because what I'm really trying to do is get my mind off of this gnawing anxiety, you're not letting the peace of Christ rule in your heart and in your mind. I mean, my confession is, my anxiety, ESPN. Somehow watching other people play games makes me feel better for a half hour, or get into my work, or go work out. Bad? Evil? I don't think so. But when I do it, instead of letting prayer answer the door and let God work in my life, my heart, neither wise nor profitable. Now, what I want you to see is that prayer answers the door, but it's a very specific kind of prayer. Like you, I have lots of challenges with anxiety. I think we all do, especially living in this valley at this time in world history. And I think God would say, okay, I want to teach you a way to pray. Because I felt very anxious and, oh, God, help, 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 God. And then I just pick up the backpack and put the burdens right back on. So I want to walk through these 4 specific words. You practice this, and you do not have to be anxious. The first word is prayer. It's the most common word in the New Testament in prayer. And it's the idea of turning, in the moment you feel anxious, it's turning my thoughts and my feelings upward. It's getting an upward focus. It's adoration. It's pausing and recognizing, wait a second, in the midst of these struggles right now, I want to get my focus on who is God. Worship. I actually have more than a few struggles with anxiety. I tend to juggle a few more balls than I can really juggle, trying to accomplish more than I'm really capable of. And as a result of that, I don't know about you, but you can wake up, and if you wake up, and as you're waking up, the first thoughts in your mind is, what about this, and what about that meeting, and what about this, and one of my kids over here. And then if you get up out of bed, wash your face, and if you pick up your phone, oh my gosh, Dow's down 77 points, and I'll just check my email while I'm walking to make coffee. Oh my gosh, you know what you're setting yourself up for? Disaster. The first thing you need to do in the morning, every morning, either Psalm 23 or the Lord's Prayer, before I get out of bed, I realize, God, if I don't see life through your lens, I'm going to be in trouble. Because I know this life is going to bring more challenges, just the ones I know about. They're more than I can handle. And it's interesting, when Jesus taught his disciples to pray, what did he say? When you pray, say, Our Father. Oh. So in the midst of all the craziness of the world, the one who created all that there is, the one who sent his son to die for you and rise from the dead, the one who's the sovereign king, who's all wise, all powerful, and all knowing of every circumstance, real, possible, and potential, he's your Papa. And say to him, who art in heaven. You're not in the mix of all this. You're not pulled into this or that. You're the creator. You're in control. Holy is your name. I can know 100% of the time that God will never lie to me. God's always going to be pure. His intentions. So it's this moment where you pause and you get a high, clear view of God. When anxiety knocks at the door of your heart, let prayer answer it. And the first prayer is worship and adoration. So I have a habit. As I'm laying in bed, I either pray slowly through Psalm 23 or the Lord's Prayer or parts of it. And then I don't look at my phone. I don't check my email. I have coffee already made because that's a very important part of my early morning. And the dog and I are friends, so I let the dog out. And every morning I do something. I'm always disappointed. I mean, I know we need rain. I'm good for rain, and clouds are great. But every morning I take my cup of coffee, and my dog's out running around. And I stand in my patio like I did this morning, and I look up and I see these stars. And I force myself out loud, almighty, ever-living creator. Little people like me have stared at the sky for thousands and thousands of years, and you created him, and this is just the Milky Way. There's 100, maybe 200 billion stars in this little galaxy, and they didn't know there's another couple 100 billion galaxies. And the one that placed these in the sky at this moment on this day, I am the object of your affection. I don't know how to pull off or what's going to happen. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to talk to you and read what you want to say to me. But I'm going with you, the creator of the world, at my back. Here's what I can tell you. As you get a really big God, you will get really small problems. If you have really big problems, you have a very small God. See, what happens, take thought of, it means to focus on, get obsessed with. Okay, here's a problem. Okay, maybe 85% or 90% of your marriage is pretty good. Or at work, you really do have a good job, but there's a supervisor. Or maybe, you're single, but you have some really good friends. But whatever the part that really makes you anxious or there's uncertainty, here's what you do. You focus on it, you focus on it, you focus on it, you focus on it, you focus on it. And pretty soon, you look at all of life through this anxiety. And then as you look at all in life, the way we're made is then your emotions and your physiology begin to respond. And then your body and your world gets messed up because you think this is the world. He says, when anxiety knocks at the door of your heart, let prayer answer it. And the first thing you do, this is the God that can deal with that. You think God can heal someone of cancer? We've seen it. You think God can give people grace to go through cancer? You think God can actually take someone that you love to heaven and you recover from it and be okay knowing you're going to see them later? You bet. You think God can give you a new job if you don't have it? You think God can get into the heart of one of your kids that's not walking with God? Do you think God can? Of course he can. Intellectually you believe that, but it doesn't experience it until you worship him. Put a little A, the left of where it says prayer, and circle it, and I'll tell you why later. The second is petition. This is the second most common word in the New Testament. It's focusing on your need. It's a prayer that expresses my need or my want before I ask. It's a sense that it's the awareness that I am unable, that I have limitations in this situation, that I need you, God. I can't handle this. Much of anxiety is about, here's a problem or here's an issue, and the resource you unconsciously look to is, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? How do I fix it? How do I fix it? And the more it's overwhelming or the more it's out of your control, and the more you realize you can't fix it, guess what happens? It just grows and grows and grows. And so the kind of prayer that answers the door when anxiety knocks and causes you to run to your Father is first adoration, and this is confession. God, I can't handle this. I don't know what to do in this marriage. I've tried everything under the sun. I can't get one of my kids' attention for the life of me. You know what? Unless you transfer my supervisor to Siberia, I don't, he doesn't like me. She doesn't like me. I feel like I can't handle this. Lord, I need you. You know what that is called in Scripture? Humility. Dependency. And you know what? You can't cast your cares on Jesus as long as you're holding on to him and assuming that some way, somehow, my ability, my moxie, my personality, my brains, I'm going to solve this. And so the kind of prayer is first worship and then confession. And you say, you care for me, I can't handle this. And then it positions you to begin to ask him, to really ask him for help. The third word is thanksgiving. It's a very interesting compound word. It means to be good or well and combined with grace. I love one commentator. He says the way this is phrased, it's like sprinkling like salt and pepper into the rest of your prayers where you're constantly giving thanks. I mean, I find myself, when I look at the stars or when I'm worshiping God, all of a sudden he'll just bring to my mind, you've got almost 40 years with your wife after all that you guys have been through. And, think about what that day when your one son was in ICU or, you thought this was an impossible problem. God, thanks. So I'm worshiping, but I just sort of fall into thanksgiving. Or how about when you're confessing, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. You know what God reminds me? Hey, remember like 2 years ago or 3 months ago when it was an impossible situation and you couldn't do it? Do you remember what I did? Oh, yeah. You were faithful. Thank you. In fact, let me show you a little tool. And I know some of you are not writers, you're not verbal processors. I don't think people need to keep a journal to be godly, okay? But if you're a little ADD, if I'm gonna, you know, like in services like this, sometimes we say, I want to ask you a question, but don't raise your hand. Can I try the opposite? I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. Does anybody else except me, does your mind wander when you pray? Oh my gosh. It's just, and then I feel so guilty. I mean, I've been out in the stars, I've worshiped Him, I'm reading the Bible, God, I can't do this. And then my mind's all the way over to here, and then it's over to here, then it's over to here. Oh my God, no. And what I realize is, I can't concentrate very well. So, when it comes to, and then I get paralyzed, and then I feel bad that I can't concentrate, and then I tell God I'm sorry, and then it's like confession. Sometimes I just give up, and the anxiety doesn't leave. And here's what I've learned to do. I've learned when I'm going through that, I realize that biblical prayer can't coexist with a thankful heart, and anxiety can't live with thankfulness. So, for example, this is middle of December this year. I just couldn't concentrate. Lord, I'm overly aware of what I am not, in varying degrees of what awaits me. I was away for a few days, and what I returned, I had anxiety, 200 emails, 3 meetings. Holy Father, please forgive me for my self-focus, and please renew my heart and my mind. I'm viewing things through a negative lens, and it's producing negative emotions. And so this is what I did. Thank you for the rest, the walks, the time to read, relax, and laugh with Teresa. Thank you for the good news that Eddie will be joining our team January 5th. Thank you for Teresa that she said she's feeling better physically than she has in a long time. Thank you for the long and beautiful pool to swim and rehab my back. Thank you that I rarely had to take Advil for the last few days. I mean, can you imagine thanking God for no Advil? Here's what I'm trying to get. This is how life really works. It's in the details of life where you say, well, no, that's big. Thank you for the insight and encouragement to listen to the book by John Ortberg, The Life You've Always Wanted, and the resilience and encouragement it's brought to my heart. Thank you for the God impulse to help people that we've met on the streets that are poor. Thank you for bringing Greg Jutila to our team and giving me another communicator to share the load at VCC. Thank you for amazing and godly men that work at living on the edge here at the church and the elders here. Thank you that despite all the unpleasantness I see in my life, my mistakes in leadership, personal struggles and failures, as a Christian, as a husband, as a father, and as a leader, that you love me, delight in me, and have exceeding mercy upon me, my family, my life, my ministry, and that you're not surprised or shocked that I don't measure up. You remember even when I forget that I'm but dust. I cannot in this life measure up. I am in need of your mercy and your grace every moment of every day. The truth is, many of the things that bother me about me, they bother me because they're true. Anybody else have that? And so, but you know what? When I got done, I was at peace. See, part of all your psyche stuff is, I don't measure up, I got to do this. Sometimes just being honest. And you know what? This is who God is. I have great need. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to thank my way into the presence of God. And then the last word is a powerful word. And the last word he talks about is, so what do? It's requests. You outline your specific needs. I mean, this is like, you know why some of you don't experience much of God? You pray prayers like this: Lord, bless my family. Help me have a good day. Help my children. Help me someday, some way, somehow to meet someone. Lord, cause me to grow spiritually, somehow, some way. I mean, that's like my wife sending me to the grocery store and say, could you buy some food that we will all like and that I will cook well? I mean, she would go, oh my gosh. Whenever she sends me, and if she was here, she'd say, she doesn't send me very often. Man, I got a list, and then it's like, here's the label. It's got to be organic. It's got to be this. She wants very specific things. Once you have, this is who God is. This is your need. I'm thanking him. What do you want? God, I ask you specifically to move in my supervisor's heart to give me favor with him and that I would have great affirmation in this meeting. God, I'm asking you in the next 14 days to bring someone into my son's life to turn his or her heart to Christ. God, I'm asking you for X amount of dollars because this is what's happening in our family situation and I need that. God, I'm asking you for the best doctor in all the Bay Area. Help me bring someone in contact. How do we deal with this cancer? Write specific things and expect specific things, and then like a grocery list, give them to the God who's all-wise, all-knowing, and you're his son, his daughter, and he'll help you. The next thing I do in my journal is, I pray once I've gotten there, these are all little boxes. I turn all my concerns, all my anxiety into prayers. Lord, please help me, fill me with your wisdom and your spirit in order to, here's a box, there it is. Here's a box, here it is. And I'm turning them into requests. And this is a month old. All but about 2 have check marks next to the box. You know what I'm experiencing? God's alive in my life. God is showing up. I'll guarantee he's showing up in your life. You just don't know it. You don't track it. You don't pray specifically. Here's what he's saying. When anxiety knocks at the door of your heart, let prayer, this kind of prayer, adoration, confession, thanksgiving, supplication, let prayer answer it and then run into your Father's arms. Run into your Father's arms. It's like, remember for some of us, when you had small kids, or some of you have small kids, when they have a bad dream, what do they always do? Like they're 4, they're 3, they have a bad dream. They get up, they run, and what do? They're at your bedside. What do they want to do? They want to get in bed with you. So what do? Open the covers and go, oh, brother. Because they take up the whole bed. And then they lay next to you, and 30 seconds later, what do you hear? You think that's an accident? See, they think that their parent loves them, is in control, and it's a safe place, and they're at peace. And the God of the universe says, come. Stop fretting. Stop worrying. Stop trying to figure out how you can solve it all. In fact, the promise here, peace and anxiety cannot, write the word coexist. Peace and anxiety can't coexist. Second, anxiety and biblical prayer cannot coexist. Now, I'm going to give you a little warning because I hope some of you are going, wow, okay, I get it. I ask you to put an A. Okay, anxiety's coming into my life. A, adoration. The next, put the letter C next to that one under the petition, confession. T for thanksgiving. And then S, supplication, what I'm actually going to ask. So A, C, T, S. So it's just a little acts. This is when anxiety knocks at the door of my heart, I'm going to let an acts kind of prayer, adoration, confession, thanksgiving, and supplication, I'm going to let it answer, and I'm going to run into my Father's arms. Now here's the deal. If you never played golf, or if you never went bowling, if you never played an instrument, or if you did it like 35 years ago, would you expect to go and roll a 300 or shoot par? Or would you expect it is a skill to learn about, a skill to practice, a skill to develop, and that over time you would get better and better and better and better? You don't have to live an anxious life, but you have built, and I have built, lifelong habit patterns to respond to anxiety in ways that are very dysfunctional and very painful, and they're bad for you, your soul, your relationship with God, your family, and with other people. So what I just described, you're going to have to go into training and begin to practice. So when you feel peace leaving, because by the way, you can do all 4 of those kind of prayers in about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, right? You can take a break. I've had situations where I've been in a situation, I'm anxious like this, and I don't know what to do. Excuse me, I got to go to the bathroom. I've gone to the bathroom while I'm washing my hands. God, help me to remember. And I'll just walk through that and ask the peace of Christ, because I need your power. I need to abide in you. I need your peace and your power. And Jesus said he's given it to us freely. To summarize on the very back, biblical prayer is God's antidote to anxiety. It's simple and yet profound. Biblical prayer is the antidote to anxiety. Every time you feel anxious this week, here's the word picture. Can you fill it in even without me saying? When anxiety pounds at the door of your heart, Father, forgive them, they don't know what they do. Okay, let's try that again. That's the most unaffirming response to someone speaking I've ever had my whole life. And I know you were deep in thought. That's it. Okay, are you ready? Okay, let's try this again. When anxiety pounds at the door of your heart, prayer. Oh, they're beautiful, Lord. Answer it as you run into your Father's arms. As we close, I'm going to ask our team to come and we're going to celebrate this and pray it from the heart and actually experience it. But before we do, what I understand is there might be some people that grow up like me, is if God is not your Father, if you've never received him as your Savior, this doesn't work. Because these promises aren't for people outside of Christ. And so the prayer that relieves the biggest anxiety, it was my most amazing experience. Even though I'd been to church, even though I intellectually believed in God, I didn't realize I needed to turn from my sin, my self-will, and running my life. And I need to turn and say, Lord Jesus, I believe that you came from heaven, that you are in fact God and you died upon the cross. And as you hung upon the cross, you paid for my sin. And you covered or atoned for my sin. And what you've said is that as many as believe and would invite you into their heart and life, you would literally take up residence, and that's how your peace starts. If you've never done that, we would love to help you on your journey to make that decision. Because he brought you here today because you matter and he loves you.